Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Sama, thank you for your kind words. Our gracious moderator, Reverend Chance, the principal of St. Andrews, Reverend Kilawan, and all the representatives from the Board of Theological Education and from the Board of Directors of St. Andrews, faculty members, graduates and guests. I am very honored to be a part of this evening's ceremony. I too would like to join in congratulating all of you, wonderful persons in the various categories. I want to congratulate you for your, first of all, listening to those who have nominated you in your local church to be in various offices, and also possibly local boards and others who have encouraged you to take these courses and these programs. All right, there are many elders, I've been counting them, elders, presiding elders. I'm going to make reference to the lay ministry because whether you are elder, presiding elder, you did the LTH, whatever the program, a lot of young people in the youth training program, all of you belong to the famous and the most significant ministry that I call the lay ministry. All of you are graduates of the lay ministry of the Presbyterian Church in Trinidad and Tobago. Right, congratulations, all the best. My question, as I begin with you, is, so what next? When them nice thing, or they have all these stools and so on, they really look smart. Yeah, okay. Well, what next? You're going to frame your certificates? Go and frame it. Right, get your photograph somewhere. My question is, first of all, now that you have graduated, you're going to get certificates and some nice gifts up there. I think there's whatever it be. The question is, you know what's going to happen tomorrow morning? Wait, not today, Saturday. You know what's going to happen on Sunday? Where are you going and what is the platform and what is the scene and the place where you are going to practice your craft? I'm using that term. Whether you're going to be a youth leader or you're going to be a presiding elder, a regular elder in the church, whatever, you're going to practice out there, and this is what you're qualifying for. So I want you to bear with me. Bear with me because the question is, so when you go through those doors, what is out there waiting for you in your pastoral region and in your own congregation? What is out there waiting for you to be a leader, whatever your qualification entitles you to be? I want you to bear with me because we're going to scope out the field a little bit. What is waiting for you is my question. Now, this that I am going to share with you some thoughts is not really my opinion. No. It is reality. As I see it, this is what is going to happen this evening and tomorrow morning, what you're going to see when you're in your bed and you say your prayers and say, God, thank you for bringing me thus far. I am not going to be negative. I'm saying this up front because we Presbyterians are so sensitive. Oh, he's so negative. I wonder why Karen invite him. All right? He could do better than that. Let me tell you something. I begin. For several years, not 2 years, for several years there has been a crisis in pastoral care across the board in this country, affecting 109, I understand they're closing down one, make it 110. How much we have, moderator? 110 or 109? Anywhere inside there. I hope it's not 107. All right. In several, you know this, maybe you belong to some of these regions. In several regions, there are 4 or 5 churches. There are about 2 regions in Trinidad with 6 churches. Could you imagine that? No, I could speak like this. You know why? Because many years ago, I was in Sipariat a bunch from Erin Road to Rock Road. And then I went up there. I was transferred to Cuba, and there was, you talking about 4 and 5 and 6, I had 10. 10 from Mizpah in Claxon Bay right up to Calcutta in central Trinidad. All right. What is going to happen tomorrow morning? Because of distances, I'm not dealing with 10. I'm dealing with 4, 5, and 6 churches like Marabella, and somebody else got sick. Most of these churches have overlapping times. You go to any region, you're going to have 7 o'clock here tomorrow morning and 7 o'clock out there, or 7:30. 8 here, 8 o'clock out there, 8:15, 8:30, whatever it be. You know what is called out there? Members of the Presbyterian church are dissatisfied to go to church Sunday morning, and you know what they say? They didn't have a proper reverend. If you never hear that, I don't know where you're from. Let me tell you something. Last year, I think we ordained 2 ministers. In 2024, we ordained 1. And I understand there could well be 1 in 2025. All right? And you have a bunch of retirees helping. Our church, hear the story. Our church was never able to recruit sufficient presiding elders, lay pastors, assistant lay pastors. Right? I will tell you a secret. The church got independence in 1968. For the last 56 years, listen, I know 2 years, you only have 1 or 2 persons present in church today who is 56. For the last 56 years, all of these experiments have failed in the Presbyterian church. They have failed. Because I remember the time, only last night I was chatting with a minister. Could you imagine? You had 2 presiding elders living in Shoguanas. And these poor fellas had to go all San Richiquito and Plomita and Guayco, all those distances. Because in those certain regions in Trinidad, they were not able to recruit even 1. So you had to take people from far away and work them. They said, listen to me. There were 1 presiding elders some years ago who going to church in the morning to help the Presbyterian church. They drive into church with lights on because they had to leave so early. Maybe don't know that. I know you're young, but let me tell you, it exists today. There are members of the church, your congregation. There are members of the church on Friday or Saturday. They pick up the phone and they will call somebody down the road from the same church. And you know what the question they're asking? Who preaching tomorrow? Tell me a lie. Who preaching tomorrow? Certain local boards will never put up the preaching schedule on the door. Because they want to deceive the members of the church and hide it from them. Like if we are children. Local boards, many local boards do that. Because you want to trap them because it's Sunday morning. They don't want to know who is coming. Well, they have telephones. They're smarter than you. If you think you want to hide the preaching schedule for them, our members are smarter. And when they ask you who preaching tomorrow, they will decide whether they're going to church or they're going to shop in Price Mart. Tell me a lie. All right? Listen to this. Listen to this. There are several churches in Trinidad. Moderator is here. I am glad he could hear me. One of the first things this new moderator said, one of the first things, and he surprised me, and you don't like it, that's all right. He spoke, one of the first things he talked about is dwindling attendances in the church. One of the first things. Listen to me, you all are leaders of the church and you're going back there. This is where I'm dealing with. What are you? You're graduate and you have a certificate and you have a pretty sash. What are you going out there for in your own congregation? You are going to meet exactly what I am saying. Could you imagine some of you presiding elders conducting service? Could you imagine you work so hard, you study all kinds of passages from the Bible, you read all kinds of, looking for illustrations, you read Bible commentaries, and when you go in church, you have more empty pews than people. How do you feel? Somebody in the back in the choir says bad, and we don't even have a choir in the back of me. Could you beat it? The echo is bad. Listen to this. I've been I'm not making this up. I went to a funeral just now, and I'm whole day in San Fernando. Old man like me, listen to me, I'm not making this up. Could you imagine you go to a service and you see four persons in church, and you make 5? You want to tear up the certificate and say, what are you doing in this? But that is what is happening. Listen to this. We're talking about elders and presiding elders, and you see all of you who are lay leaders in the church, you're not too far from the eldership kind of thing, because this is the leadership. What is happening is, really and truly, all across our 100 and X churches that we have, the best out of 4 Sundays in the month, the best attendance is communion morning. And you know what I'm hearing in churches? If it doesn't happen by you, thank God. The attendances on communion morning in some churches, that is taking a dive too. And for the next 3 Sundays, I tell you something, we are 1/3, maybe half, possibly less. A bundle of empty pews. Let me tell you. And you know, it's very interesting. I will ask you when I meet you in the garage or by the gas station, how your church going? You well know that it's not going good, and you're going to say, it is really good. We're going good. We're going good. You're lying. Too many of us in my church, things are bad, empty pews all over the place, and you still going to say that things are good? What's wrong with you? We have rose-colored glasses, but it ain't have no roses around. No real roses, but we are rose-colored glasses. We flatter ourselves. We love to mama guy ourselves and say it is okay. We're going down the hill and you say it is okay. There is an erosion in the Presbyterian church, and you better be aware of it. And your certificate should be able to help. But I know there are competing interests and so on, just like I said. If the pulpit is not attractive, and if the order of service is not good, if the prayers are too long, if the church is not appealing to you, well, you find something else to do. All right? Let me tell you what many members feel. I'm talking about members of the church. I'm talking about communicants of the church. I'm talking about the faithful members of the church. They feel that the church, my church, your church, our church is losing its appeal. Might have a nice building. It has lost its dynamism. It has lost its effectiveness. The church is losing its way. It is feeble and just existing. Church life is just like going through the motions. You know, you ever hear about this maintaining the status quo? Well, that and all is outdated. We're maintaining an outdated status quo. We operate as a car. Those of you who are drivers, we operate as a car without gas that goes down the hill, otherwise it shut down. Now, I would have taken 2 hours, but I think I must stop now. No question. I was telling you, like yesterday, a lady came. Her grandfather was Reverend Ramsaran from Guayco and so on. She lives in England, and she chatted with me yesterday morning home because she visited her brother. And I asked her, I said, I'm going to speak to my young people and graduates tomorrow afternoon at 4. Yesterday, the lady sat in my garage. She come in England. She wrote a book about Presbyterianism. She comes from good Presbyterian stock. Her grandfather, Reverend Ramsaran. You read about him. I said, how things in England with the Christian church? And she did this. She said, churches are closing down. Attendances are poor. That's the story I heard. You tell me that is England? Happening right here, man. Question I want to ask you now. As I am telling you, this is what we're going to find out there with all them certificates and beautiful sash that you have around you. Is there any hope for recovery of the church? Is there any hope, is my question. You see the first part where I tell you what you're going out there to meet? I didn't make it this. I didn't make this up. This is an echo of communicants and elders and members of the church. Recently I was talking to a reverend about things in that particular region, not in this part of the world. So out in your church, he said, oh God, we're going guns. I said, them guns have no bullets in it. Those guns are useless because I know the church catching hell. Let me tell you, is there any hope at all now that you are graduating? Is there any hope for recovery? I will tell you this. You must have heard this line somewhere in a song. You do not have to sing like angels, and you do not have to preach like Paul. Just remember that. I'll tell you something. When the church was the youngest, like a baby, and the church was the weakest, and the church was most vulnerable, about between 1868, when you just started in Irie Village, and so on, 1868, 1870, only a few years when this one started, our infant church had 2 ordained ministers. I hope you follow my drift. The church had 2 ordained ministers when the church was at its weakest. Grant in this church, Morton up the road in Irie Village. But let me tell you this. Is there any hope for my church and our church? There were 2 ordained ministers, just like the one we have scattered all over the place. But there were 45 lay people helping them. I want to say that again so you will not forget what I say. When there were 2 ordained ministers, there were 45 selected lay people like all of you in church. Between 1900 and 1918, there were 8 missionaries, 8 ordained people. There were 53 lay people. I don't want to remember all the details. I just want you to get the drift of what I am saying. That the church was able to succeed in its most critical years because of the lay people like yourself with that sash around your neck and your certificate. The lay people like you were the evangelists, they were the real builders of the church, they were the spiritual giants of the church. They built the church and they saved the mission. Otherwise, I'd never come here to talk to you. You graduates in 2024. You lay people, mostly elders, put the presiding elders and the regular elders from churches, you cross 50. You are the real hope of this church. And I am so delighted to be here to announce to you that you constitute the resource for leadership, the most valuable, the most precious. The elders and the lay people in the church, there's an untapped potential out there. You can save the church and you can rescue this church. This church has been struggling. Yep. And we have been appealing for the lifeline, and the lifeline is in you, the lay people. The eldership has to be the engine room of the Presbyterian church. Yes, the future of this church is in your hands. Let me tell you about your reverend business. Remember I just talked about 1 minister and 50-something, 1 minister and 40-something? Let me tell you something. It is so important that we understand that something happens in the church and you talk about your reverend. Let me tell you what happened. I am still a minister. We ministers come and go. We ministers come and go. But we met you in the church. And when you say farewell to minister and they go about their business, you may not even get one, but you have to carry on. The church has been in the hands of lay people for the last 156 years. Yes, somewhere in time we lost our way, but you new graduates can make a difference. You must do so. The adjustment and adaptation, it is essential for 2024 and thereafter. I want you to go back to your church tomorrow morning. I'm not talking about being in session, all that kind of thing. You don't have to supervise 5 and 6 churches. Go back to your own little church. And that is where the power begins in what you're going to do in your own church. Do not only be a bread and wine elder. You know some of them? Oh, yeah. Do not, oh Lord, we have too much of the bread and wine elders. You know what they do? They are active officials only on Communion Sunday. They don't even worship for the next 2-3 Sundays. Oh yeah. Sunday morning they parade in, man, with bread and wine. Yes. Listen to me. Go back in your church and don't be like that. Don't make a difference. You have to make a difference. Do not use the eldership, for God's sake, do not use the eldership as a stepping stone to boards and committees of the church. Do you know anyone like that? You see them sitting on the front seat in the choir, and you know where the France they come from? And as soon as they get promotion, oh, you elect them as elder at the congregational meeting. As soon as they get what they want, they slow down in church involvement, they remain in the shadows, and eventually they leave the church. Oh, yes. You don't have to look too far. Go in your own church and you're going to see it. I'm not saying you must think like a Pharisee and feel you're better than everybody. God forbid that you should hurt yourself like that, because you will only reap the whirlwind. Now, what does Jesus and the congregation expect of you with your nice sash and your certificate and so on? Let me tell you something. You are called to be the pastor and shepherd. You are the caretaker. You are the watchman, and you are the custodian of that little church where you serve. You want me to say it again? Hope somebody recording it. You are to be, listen to this carefully, you are the number one pastor of your church. Listen to this again. You are the number one pastor of your church. The synod has a term that is called church worker. Leave that alone. Don't let anybody tell you differently. You, the elders, and this kind of leaders in the church, you have a unique pastoral responsibility. You are the real pastors. And if you leave the word pastor for the Pentecostal and Open Bible Church, I am bringing it back right here into the eldership. You are the pastors of the church. We are the ministers and so on and church workers. Leave that right there. We're not going there. And do not, when things happen in your church, I hear elders, senior elders, they're so foolish. Do not engage in old talk saying, that's the reverend job. You ever hear anybody say that? In your own set, that's the reverend job? Me are doing that? That is what I call idle talk. Please, for God's sake, if you say that, you might as well take out the stash and throw it in the garbage on Monday or Wednesday when the garbage truck comes. Don't think like that. I'll tell you what to do. What awaits you out there, and how can you bring about this reformation and renewal in the church? When there's I have been a pastor, you know, we have a wake. I just came from a funeral. When they have a wake, somebody in the congregation dies. You know, in some churches, not an elder is present. I am so disgusted and ashamed. They disgrace the eldership. A member of your church dies. It is compulsory. You as elders, you are pastor and shepherd. You are watchman and caretaker. You can tell me a member of your church dies and you have something, you busy? You have failed as an elder. Somebody is sick, you won't pick up your telephone and call them. That's the reverend work. What about the elderly in your church? You are shepherd, you are pastor. Yes, youth work, counselor, mediators. Oh yes. Are you ready? Are you ready to be this kind of pastor? Or you figure out that you want to only bread and wine thing and go on some board of primary school board. First thing they're fighting. Why? I have my badge, I'm an elder. You cannot fail your people. You cannot fail them. You know what happened last Sunday? I am not making this up. Was it the 27th of October? All you forget, when is the last? 27th of October, was it the last Sunday? All right, let's call it the last Sunday in October. I chatted with my friend in one of the churches. I like to call him an old talk with him. And you know what he told me? I said, how's everything? He said, Rev, their service is morning time. And he called me about midday. I said, how things, pal? He said the preacher didn't turn up. That ever happened in your church? The whole congregation is waiting and there's nobody conduct the service. And there could be sickness. Yes, no quarrel with the person who didn't turn up. Sickness and traffic and accident and bereavement.
Listen to me. You see, you elders, you have to go with a little book. Start doing that. Elder has to go. You are pastor, man. Go with a little book. Have a prepared prayer. Have a little outline of a sermon, the parable of the prodigal son or Good Samaritan. Have a short sermon outline. The emergencies are going to arise. Don't excuse and say, like this, we don't have a reverend. It's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. You, as elders, have to develop a personal spiritual life. You have to be the people's pastor. There are regions today that don't have a minister. For the longest while they have an interim. I told the moderator, the interim is just whitewash. Those people know if they have an interim minister, they don't have a minister. Because the interim minister down there, powerful, he got 6 churches. How we could do another one? Yes? Listen to this. Ask God. Tell God, thank you for the sash I have and thank you for the certificate and the gift. Ask God to make you a person of greater empathy. Go down on your knees tonight and ask God to give you more kindness and patience with the people you have to serve as pastor. Yes, ask God for gifts that will make you a people's person. This is what we need. This is how you could be a pastor. You can only be a good speaker. No. You have to be a people's person, man. Or without that, you're going to be a failed elder. A noisy gong and a clanging cymbal. Oh, boy. You know there's a nice hymn. Principal knows this hymn. He likes this hymn. I like this hymn. All right? This hymn is found in the Book of Praise in 634. Don't look at it now, because you know it. It is called the summons. You know, like when a policeman brings you a summons. In the poetic form of that hymn, it is called the summons. And there's a line in it I want to leave with you. It is, you are being summoned for something, you know. Youth leader, elder, presiding elder, ladies worker, counselor. You are given a summons. And the hymn says, will you come and follow me? You know that hymn, will you come and follow me? Well, I want to leave this line with you so you'll be worried. Everybody sing it. You will be worried when I share this line with you. You won't like me after that. You won't even want to read the hymn again. Listen to the line. Will you love? I'm saying it slowly because you never took it seriously. Will you love the you hide? If I but call your name. I want to say it again. I want to say it 20 times. It's in the hymn, you know. Will you love the you hide? You know what is it? You know who is the you hide? Nobody knows it. Not even your mother, not even your spouse. Yep. You know what is to be a narcissist? Narcissism is when you love yourself. This is a frightening line in that hymn. I don't know why the author put in that. Jesus says, will you come and follow me? And Jesus says, what about? How much do you love the you in you? The you that only you know. The you that you hide from everybody, and when the session interviewing you, they will never see it. And when the Board of Theological Education interviewing you, they will never see it. Because the you in you and the you in me is the you that we hide. Hello. In 1963, I enlisted for the church's pastoral ministry, and I never had a regret. I will do it again. And coming from that background, I say to you, I am so happy, I am elated. I am on cloud 9, applauding you and begging you to be pastors, shepherds. You do not have to wear a collar and a black gown. Not at all. I see in you the lay people of the church, the only hope for resurgence, rejuvenation, relevance, and dynamism, and a newness of this Presbyterian church has to go forward. I close now. In the 1500s, during the Renaissance, one of the greatest of the Italian sculptors and artists named Michelangelo, one day he was carving. Other people were commissioned to carve something on this block for one of the temples, one of the churches in Sicily.
in Italy. And while Michelangelo was chipping away, because he knew what he was going to do, he was going to carve a statue of David in the Goliath story, only of David. And this has turned out to be one of the most famous pieces of art in all the world. He did it all around the 1504. That statue of David that he cut. And while it took him about 2 years to make that statue, Michelangelo, and while he was chipping away, it took him 2 years to cut that statue, you know. Oh yeah. And a little boy passed and said, "Mister, what are you doing chipping away at that piece of marble? You only hitting the rock. And Michelangelo said to him, "There is an angel inside this rock, and I am setting him free." And when he finished, it was the most beautiful statue in all of Florence in Italy. To all of you graduates today, you are pastors and shepherds of the people. And I am sure that Michelangelo will say with your moderator and principal and all of us, there is an angel inside all of you. We are setting that angel free at your graduation. No longer a big block of stone that is neglected in the time of the artist. There is an angel inside you. Take to your congregation and to your church the mighty energy you possess. Go and serve them well, the people in your care. God bless you, every one of you. Jesus' church is in your hands. Treasure this honor that he gives to you. You are so special to him. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.